a very warm welcome, Club 1999 member. The removal, very violent removal of Miguna from the country has sent shockwaves right across the world. Now recently I've received some very fascinating information that sheds quite a bit of light into the inner workings of a Kenyan government that has gone rogue. Indeed, it will help us understand a lot better, the behind the scenes workings, concerning the deportation of Miguna. Now, apparently, the internal CS, Bwana Fred Matiangi, and even the police inspector general, not to mention the immigration boss, have not been very intimate or very familiar with what has been going on behind the scenes concerning the Miguna issue. What am I saying? What I'm saying is that, for instance, not real police officers have been used in some of the more dirty operations, especially concerning Miguna. The result is that our intelligence boys have gotten a very bad reputation the world over for nothing. The truth is, our security chaps are very well trained. That's the truth. Our intelligence boys are very much on top of the game. And those who are aware of this fact have wondered what's going on, concerning the Miguna issue. For instance, it is extremely obvious that the plan to deport Miguna this second time was not thought through properly. Somebody did not take the time to cross all their T's and be careful to consider any possible mishaps in the operation. And that is why the first time round it failed. Miguna easily thwarted it. The second time it was even worse. Although Miguna was successfully deported, there were so many loose ends left that will definitely come back to haunt the government. For example, the plan seems to have been to retrace back Miguna's steps in landing in Kenya, and therefore the idea was to fly him to Dubai, from Dubai to London, and then from London straight to Canada. But the journey ended in Dubai. It was probably assumed that once Miguna is out of Kenya, it'll be very easy to threaten him, bully him, handle him, and that his options would be extremely limited, and therefore there would be no problem in getting him from Dubai on to London and then Canada. This is the kind of miscalculation our intelligence boys would never have made. Then there was the very terrible idea of putting Miguna to sleep by injecting him. Now that particular plan just has too many loose ends. Again, professionals in the cloak and dagger business would never have made an open blunder like that one. And so the big question is, who was involved? Who are these people who are involved in some aspects, some very critical aspects of the Miguna operation? The shocking answer is that outsiders were used. Now, this is not the first time that outsiders have been used to do some certain dirty jobs on behalf of the government. Now, let's take a very quick look at previous cases. The very first political assassination in Kenya, Pio Gama Pinto, is a case in point. Let's start there. Pio Gama Pinto was shot by a taxi driver. Not even a policeman, not a member of the security forces. But what happened is, at the time, CID officers offered a backup. They backed up the operation. They did all the groundwork, so that they made sure that the person was where he was supposed to be for the assassination to take place. And then, of course, they organized for the clean getaway of the taxi driver, making sure that he's not arrested or is not seen by any eyewitnesses. The very brutal murder of former Foreign Affairs Cabinet Minister Robert John Ouko was carried out by foreigners, non-Kenyans. Now let's come to more recent years. During the Kibaki years, as of course running the Kumekucha blog at that time, I got some very curious information that actually what had happened is that a parallel intelligence outfit had been set up by State House, and it was headed by a man called Stanley Murage. When I initially got this information, to me it sounded very far-fetched, and I really didn't believe it. However, it was this Murage outfit that brought in the Atur brothers. Remember the Atur brothers? They were involved in the raid on the Standard newspapers. They raided Standard newspapers, they did a lot of damage to the printing press and even burnt newspapers. And eyewitnesses, or rather eyewitness reports, indicated that the people who raided the Standard were foreigners, because they were referring to the staff as niggers. Something that local security people, even locals, would not do that. Now, although President Kibaki left with his team, and people like Stanley Moraga are no longer in State House, that parallel unit has remained in place. Of course, it's top secret, but once in a while, it comes out in eyewitness reports. Because you'll have heard various people say, including lawyer James Orengo, that some of the people who were harassing Miguna did not even look like cops. Indeed, many of them described them as thugs. Now, don't get confused here. I'm not talking about the people who sealed off a section of the airport. Those were real security people, local security people, working for the Kenyan government. Those were official guys. I'm talking about, for instance, the people who are dragging Miguna across the airport in the now infamous Lunga Lunga dance. I'm talking about some of the people who escorted him to the aircraft, or rather dragged him to the aircraft, in the first failed attempt to deport him. I'm talking about the people who planned the details of the operation that successfully removed Miguna from the country the second time. So in effect, the way this works is that these other people, if we can just call them other people, do the work, and of course the damage, and then now real police officers in the government and intelligence boys come in to do a cleanup. And this is what brings people like IG Boynet, who's in charge of the police, and even Bwana Matiangi, in a situation where they find themselves having to excuse that which cannot be excused. Now, I'm told this thing of using or setting up a parallel intelligence agency is not new all over the world. Other countries have done the same thing. Even very developed countries have found the need of setting up a parallel unit to do some very specific work or to focus on a very specific area on behalf of whichever government it is. In places like the US, you hear them referring to them as private contractors, private security contractors. And so it's not new and it's not unique to Kenya. However, given the circumstances of our country right now, and given the circumstances of all the mess-ups that started with the rigged August 8th, 2017 elections, the whole thing becomes very dodgy. Of course, one of the huge disadvantages is that when you use foreigners, they lack an intimate knowledge of the country. In this kind of business, sometimes split-second decisions have to be made based on instinct. Now, a foreigner would hardly be instinctive in Kenya, a country they hardly know, a country where they've just come to do a contract job. And the same would also apply to locals who are outsiders, in the sense that they do not belong to our local security forces, which would make them unfamiliar with certain inner workings of our local security boys. And of course, this greatly increases the chances of something going wrong. And as we have already seen, there's a lot that has gone wrong. And because a lot has gone wrong, it puts a lot of hope in long-suffering Kenyans that the people who are hired to perpetrate all these evils on behalf of the government may one day be caught up with, so that they face justice and they answer for what they have done. especially things that they have done that are very obviously criminal. Now, it is true that one mess up normally leads to another and another and so on and so forth. And so some of these messes contributed to by outsiders ends up causing major officials like the police IG and even the CS Fred Matiangi to also mess up, make mistakes, thus continuing in a long chain of mistakes. Anyway, I'm closely following up this issue, even whatever happened behind the scenes concerning Miguna, and of course I'll keep you very, very much updated. But of course, this should be an area of great concern and worry amongst those advisors close to the president and close to State House who are responsible for ordering and making some of these decisions. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.